Before I talk about the AAO for today's video, we're going to introduce some other products as well. Now, as you've seen in the past videos for ANTEC, I did a review on the CX800 wood, yeah, and right here we have the CX800 full white, and it does look quite impressive. Now, in those terms, I go with impressive with performance, and I'll get to that part quite soon. Then we have 3P12R, which are reversed here at the bottom, which I had to additionally place, because the case comes with two reversed on the side and one here. And then we have the GSK 850 watts 80 plus gold power supply, which is fully modular, and cool thing, ATX 3.1 with dedicated 12V cable that goes up to 450 watts. So quite interesting for this smaller, and well, we have a different color scheme now, white power supply, which is also compact, 140 times 150 times 86 millimeters, fits perfectly inside this case and everything all together. But the star of today's show is basically this right here. This is ANTEC VORTEX LUM 360 addressable RGB in white, and the cool thing about it is they changed the fans. I'm not sure if they changed anything else regarding the pump. The block looks exactly the same, the tubes look exactly the same, well, basically the radiator as well looks exactly the same, but the fans are different, and I'm really digging it in this scenario. Why? Well, simply, you can see the build. We have completely, well, let's say identical fans, and that is what I was saying constantly. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have literally nothing against fusion fans. They are brilliant, they look outstanding. They fit perfectly with the pump block top design of the Vortex, and basically the only thing that they needed is like a case that actually had already pre-installed fusion fans, but that didn't happen, so this happened. And I'm really a big fan of this, because now you don't have to buy extra fans to have everything sorted out all together inside this build. Now, when we're talking about the VORTEX LUM 360, what we have here is dimension of the fans 120 x 120 x 25 PWM addressable RGB, but with a proprietary cable. And I do have to mention that speed goes from 800 to 1800 RPMs, airflow is 71.5 CFM, and the noise is maximum at 31. Air pressure at maximum is 2.45 mm H2O, lifespan with 40,000 hours. The connector is PH 2.0 7-pin, which is PWM plus addressable RGB, and it connects via splitter. So basically what happens here, you place all three fans with the direction of the cable in the way it should be hidden, and then you just use the splitter and connect all those three fans, simple as that, and you have addressable RGB daisy chainable and PWM that goes directly to the CPU fan. Now for the radiator, we have dimensions 397 x 120 x 27, and it's an aluminum radiator. The head dimensions 67 mm diameter and 48.5 height, pump 3-pin DC and 3-pin LED, which means addressable RGB 5 volts. Lifespan is 40,000 hours, and noise decibel is at maximum at 28. Supports LJ115X, 1200, 1700 and 20XX, and for AMD, AM3, AM5, AM4 and TR4. 3-year warranty, which is outstanding, and of course it supports RGB sync, ASUS Aura sync, Gigabyte RGB Fusion, MSI Mystic Lights, and ASRock Polychron sync. As you can see, it supports ASRock Polychron sync, but as per usual, ASRock doesn't support RAMs, so that's another story. But regardless of that, it was quite straightforward when we're talking about installation. Talking about the fans, much easier when connecting than the old Vortex, and the same mechanism goes for mounting the pump block top on the CPU. So what you have to do is you have the original retention brackets of the AMD motherboard. You just have to place these two retention brackets on the pump block top with 4 screws, and you basically have to attach these hinges towards those retention brackets, because these thumb screws, you have them 4 instead of only 2, because if you go with Intel socket you use 4, if you go with AMD you use 2, so it's simple as that. But regardless of that, you place the thermal paste and you place the AAO pump block top on those hinges on the retention brackets. That's all there is to it. For the radiator and the fans, 12 screws to attach the fans. Before placing the radiator and the fans to the top or the front or the side, it really doesn't matter. Connect the fans first with the cable, with the proprietary 7-pin cable, and then push the cable at the back to be able to rearrange and connect everything. Simple as that. As I stated, not much difference, but easier cable management, and you do get the same controller as you get in the old Vortex, but it's totally unnecessary because you can daisy chain literally everything and you're good to go. And of course the pump, I would separate the pump from the fans as they did, so that's quite logical to not have a daisy chainable possibility. When we're talking about the performance, so we're having AMD Ryzen 7 9800X3D paired up with RTX 4070 Ti Super, and in a 64 system stability test, CPU went up to 74 degrees, clock speed 4965 MHz with GPU 72 degrees. I would say that's quite solid. I mean, taking into consideration the case, adding 3 more fans, and the AAO cooling down the CPU, what we can say is a bit 2 degrees higher than with Cougar Airface Echo RGB what I had last time. But the best thing happens in Cinebench. It starts at 87, it ends at 83, having last 5 runs at 83, which is solid. And then the clock speed raises constantly as the thermals lower down, 5110, and ends up at 5130. Comparing it to Cougar Airface Echo, what we had is that it has about 70 to 80 megahertz clock speed higher. And then when we go to Cinebench scores, it starts quite low compared to the Airface Echo because it started at 21,429. Vortex LUM starts at 21,345. But as the temperature lowers down, the clock speed rises and it goes quite nicely high and quite quickly. So it immediately jumps to 21,400s, quite close to 21,500s, but it eventually in the last 5 runs goes quite nicely above 21,550, and that's outstanding. The average score would be 21,530, something like that, which is outstanding. And I think, well, I can't compare this Vortex to old Vortex because the old Vortex was ran on 7900 X3D. This one was ran on 9800 X3D, so that's the difference. Can't compare the thermals, right? But in general, simplified installation process regarding the fans, same mechanisms. I think even the water flow is the same, but regardless of that, trusted formula, just try to modify it a bit to get a more seamless visual aspect and solid performance as we did have in the last one. So yeah, that's it for today. Quite satisfied with this one and really glad to see that ANTEC is going with different colors of the AAOs pairing up with the cases. So you have black for black cases, you have white for white cases. We didn't have that much in Europe apart from Symphony 360, and I think it was 6 months ago we had the original Vortex that went with a white color scheme. But regardless of that, in the description you'll have the links for the Vortex LUM 360 addressable RGB, CX800 addressable RGB in white, and of course the GSK 850 watts 80 plus gold power supply. That's all for today. If you want to copy the build or do at least the segment of the ANTEC products, you can just check the links as I stated, and that'll be all for today. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, click the notification bell, and I'll see you quite shortly in a new one. Bye bye.